I can't believe I'm about to say this, but you know what? I take it back. Every bad thing I've ever said about any game I've ever talked about, I take it all back. Why? Well, because none of it really seems all that bad once you played this piece of fuck! Honestly, this might very well be the absolute worst game I've ever played. Okay, so there probably are worse games out there, and it's not like this makes Unlimited Saga or Sonic 06 any better, but actually that's exactly what it does. No, really, this thing is such a colossal pile of ape shit that it turns other really bad games into shining gems of brilliance. There's just nothing, absolutely fucking nothing of any redeemable value whatsoever in this entire fucking thing. It's beyond belief. As such, some of you probably don't believe me, do you? Well, if you still doubt me by the end of this video, it must be because you skipped ahead. Brace yourself, people, because we're going to take a trip to the incomprehensibly awful realm of Planet of the Apes on the PlayStation. Yay! Let's start with some basics. As its name implies, this game is obviously based on the Planet of the Apes franchise. However, it's a bit harder to determine exactly which entry in that franchise it's supposed to be following. The obvious choice would be the Burton remake, as it was released as a tie-in to that film, but you wouldn't know it by looking at the game. It actually seems to tie in more to the original film. Hell, it even starts with a blatant, albeit slightly altered copy of that film's opening, and by slightly altered, I mean it's much, much worse. For instance, in the film, our protagonist and his crew crash land in the lake, and therefore don't have time to check where they are before they sink. In the game, though, they just crash in the middle of some desert, and from what I can tell, there's no indication that they're about to blow up or anything, so why don't they check their fucking instruments before they leave? I mean, it's not like this makes the twist any better or anything, because the ship's computer reveals their location to us in the first couple of minutes. This is just a completely pointless and utterly stupid change that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and unfortunately, it's just one of many. In any case, does this game's incompetent attempt at copying the original film mean that it's actually based on that instead of the remake? Well, not exactly. For one thing, the humans here are more like the ones in the remake, as they can talk and are still relatively intelligent, and for another, it also includes a couple of characters that didn't appear until the first sequel, like Ursus the Gorilla General. I guess they might have been trying to mix together elements from the original, its sequel, as well as the remake to create something unique and interesting, but it really doesn't work. It just comes off as a weird and confusing mess, and I could not for the life of me tell you when the hell in the franchise's timeline this thing is supposed to take place. Are you starting to see what I'm talking about yet? This thing is so fucked that it can't even decide what it's trying to destroy. It's like some sort of mutant spawn of franchise inbreeding or something. This is the least of the problems here though, as things really get shitty when the game actually starts. I mean, just look at it. Just look at this shit. This is one of the ugliest things I've ever seen, even by the standards of the time. There's absolutely nothing appealing about the visuals at all. It's fucking disgusting. Why is it so dark? Why is the color palette pretty much just brown and grey? Why does everything look exactly the same? Why are there almost no fucking distinguishing features or landmarks of any kind in any of the levels? Were the people who made this just fucking blind? Probably not, because even a blind person can see that this is fucking atrocious. Now, I know what you might be thinking. It can't be all bad, right? It gets better eventually, doesn't it? Well, why don't I let Howard answer that one?
Hells no.
Seriously, this game looks like arse from the very first to the very last frame. It's fucking wretched. Still, I guess the audio could help make up for that. If it didn't sound worse than having your eardrums raped by a rabid gorilla. Okay, so maybe I'm exaggerating just the teeniest bit, but it really isn't by much. The audio in this game is just fucking horrendous. No part of it works at all. For example, the music might not be the absolute worst I've ever heard, although it's definitely up there, but I don't think there are more than like 2 or 3 different tracks here. Hell, it might actually be just one track with some minor variations here and there, because I swear to Chernabog it sounds almost exactly the same from beginning to end. Seriously, was the composer even awake when he made this shit? Because I fucking doubt it. As bad as the music is though, the sound effects are just weird. Okay, so I guess the gun sounds are decent enough, and most of the switches and gates and such have fairly fitting sounds as well, but almost everything else just sounds wrong. Fine, the swinging a weapon sound might not be the worst either, but it's still a tad off in my opinion. It just doesn't sound right. As for the step sounds, they might occasionally work, but I'm sorry, are all the chimpanzees wearing fucking clogs or something? Then of course we have the voiceovers, which are some of the absolute worst fucking voiceovers I have ever heard in my entire life. No one who had anything to do with these voiceovers gave two fucking turds about them at all. They're completely void of effort. Actually, they apparently couldn't even get more than a couple of people to do these voices, as a fair amount of them are so obviously just the same guys, only with some incredibly ridiculous effects added to them.
You're supposed to be dangerous, and I'm not the kind of ape who likes to take risks when money is involved.
You have got to be fucking kidding me! There's just no way you could possibly think that anyone with a single functioning brain cell would take any part of this at all seriously. For fuck's sake, Donald Duck sounds more realistic than this! On top of all that, they can't even mix these things together properly. Sure, you can try to adjust the various levels yourself, after which they'll probably sound a bit better than the default settings, but it'll never be balanced right. Just take a listen to this scene, for example.
You chimpanzees seem to be so absorbed by your research work that you can no longer see the forest through the trees.
What? What was that? I'm sorry, but I can't hear you over that fucking fan! What's wrong with these buttholes? They seriously thought this sounded okay? Use your fucking ears, you brain-dead morons! So, as you can hopefully already tell, this game is a giant pile of incompetence. But guess what? We haven't even gotten to the actual game yet. This is really going to hurt, isn't it? I mean, if you thought the game looked and sounded bad, wait till you get a load of this bullshit. The gameplay in this pile of fuck is simply amazing in how unbelievably bad it is. It's truly a masterpiece of shit. Let's start with exactly what the goal is here. Basically, you play as Ulysses the astronaut as he makes his way through the levels while solving various minor puzzles and battling the apes as well as a few other creatures. You'll eventually also come across a human resistance group who pretty much immediately start praising Ulysses as the chosen one from some cliched prophecy about a human savior who will find and collect 3 ancient artifacts that's somehow supposed to defeat the apes. And do you really care? Seriously, does anyone honestly care about any part of this half-assed storyline? Didn't think so. In any case, the basic gist of the game is just to make it through the levels without getting killed. Usually, this also means that you'll have to find various keys, cards, codes and such, as well as any weapons and items that might help you on your way. I know, actually sounds okay, doesn't it? Well, the problem is that nothing about this works. First of all, there is absolutely no way of knowing where the hell you need to go or what the hell you need to do, at least not the first time. Why? Because there's no map, goal marker, objective list or anything like that to be found anywhere. I'm not kidding, you basically just have to guess where to go, and while it's still relatively easy to figure things out, especially after dying a bunch of times, this is just ridiculous. You really couldn't give us any sort of directions of any kind? This just leads to so many mistakes, so much frustration, and so many unnecessary deaths. Well, at least you get a radar so you can see where the enemies are, but I'm sorry, this thing is almost pointless. You see, in order to use it, you have to crouch, which is also how you sneak around in this game. Once crouched, the radar, or audio meter as it's called, will be activated and show you any enemies within range, represented by sort of an audio wave ranging from green to red. Again, neat idea I guess, but it doesn't really work. Okay, so this thing does give you the approximate location of the enemies, and it can be a tiny bit useful at times, but it's just not accurate enough. I mean, you don't know if the enemies are on the same floor as you or not, you don't know if it's an ape or a fucking rat, and you have no way of knowing which direction they're facing or what their patrol route is until it's way too late. On top of that, there's the fact that while it can occasionally be useful to sneak around the apes, more often than not, there's no point, as you'll either be unable to do so, or you're better off trying to kill them anyway. Well, at least you can sneak up to and ambush them, right? Of course not! Oh, you can sneak up on them, but there's absolutely no way to silently or quickly take them down. You have to fight them one-on-one. What the hell? Why the fuck didn't you even try to implement some sort of stealth attack? Okay, maybe I could buy that it would be difficult for a human being to take down a gorilla with his bare hands, but are you seriously telling me that a knife to the throat or a gunshot to the brain wouldn't kill them? Besides, you can take them down with your bare hands, if you can actually get this broken fucking combat system to work. I am dead serious. This is the worst, the absolute worst fucking combat system I have ever experienced in my entire fucking life. It simply doesn't work, and even if you kinda manage to work with it, it's completely unfair and utterly retarded. First of all, just aiming at your enemies is almost impossible. There's next to no way of determining where exactly your hits will land, and you'll constantly miss shots that should be perfect hits. Yeah, okay, so I'm mostly talking about when you're just using your hands or a melee weapon, but trust me, using a firearm is by no means a guarantee that you'll hit your target. Either way, the aiming is just the start of it, as you probably won't even damage the enemy at all most of the time. You see, the enemies tend to block pretty much all of your attacks if they get even the slightest opportunity to do so. Well, just hit them when they stop blocking then, I hear you say. Good idea, but that's easier said than done when you only get around a fucking millisecond to do so, and when you're pretty much guaranteed to take damage before dealing any. Also, why the fuck can the enemies block as many attacks as they want when I have no way to block or dodge even a single one? No, really, you have absolutely no block or dodge move in this entire game. You just have to stand there like a fucking idiot while the enemy makes mincemeat out of your fucking face. What the fuck? Oh, and before you ask, it's not like the apes just block your fists either. I mean, I can sort of understand that my bare hands won't necessarily deal that much damage or that they would be relatively easy to block, but are you honestly saying that these apes would be able to use their arms to block a knife? A fucking knife? You really don't think that would hurt them at all? Even a toddler could tell you why this is fucking stupid, you complete and utter waste of skin! What's wrong with these idiots? Are they from fucking Mars or something? Don't they have any understanding of anything? Gah! As if all of this wasn't bad enough, they just had to add a rancid cherry on top of this shit cake. If you have even a smidgen of a brain, you probably managed to figure out that all of these issues mean that you will die quite a lot. In and of itself, that's not such a bad thing, but would you care to guess how many lives, checkpoints, and continues you get in this game?
El Zilcho.
That's right! You get zip, nada, nothing, absolutely no fucking continues, checkpoints, or extra lives of any kinds whatso-fucking-ever! Kiss the biggest, fattest, hairiest, most pus-filled boil on your own fucking asshole, you bags of regurgitated feces! Seriously, what the hell kind of sick, twisted, fucked up mind thought it was a good idea to make you reload your previous save every time you die when that's probably going to happen every other second? Is this just some kind of insanity test or something? Because it's certainly driving me fucking crazy! Oh, and if you're thinking that it might not be that bad, as you can probably save whenever you want, guess again. You can only save at the end of a level, which means that you always have to start from the beginning of the last level, even if you die 2 steps away from the goal. I don't even get how this could happen. I mean, how could you not realize that this would do nothing but piss people off? Did someone really think this would be acceptable on any level? Who the hell did you get to test this shit? A fucking chimp? Actually, that might explain the controls, because holy arse are they fucked. I don't even think I can come close to properly portray just how horrendous they are. They're beyond comprehension. I guess the best way I can explain it is to say that they're somewhat similar to Resident Evil and the like, in that they're very tank-like, but that doesn't even come close to accurately describing them. You see, you can only move forwards or backwards with any sort of momentum, while you have to turn in place to orient yourself. Again, it's so hard to properly explain, but trust me, it doesn't work at all. You don't have any way to strafe or sidestep either, which means that there's pretty much no way you can actually sneak around corners or easily get away from enemies and stuff. Jumping is also a giant pain in the dick, as you, of course, don't just have a simple jump button, no. You actually have to press the R2 and X button without moving to jump straight up, and those same buttons while moving to jump forwards, as the R2 button also acts as the run button. All of this just causes you to make so many mistakes, and it leads to so much frustration and annoyance, as you only end up wondering why the hell you couldn't just have a more straightforward control system with a simple fucking jump button. That said, this all might still have been salvageable if there was actually a functional fucking camera in this anus cream of a game. I am so not kidding when I say that this unholy excuse for a camera is the absolute worst fucking excuse for a video game camera I have ever fucking experienced. Seriously, you have absolutely no control over it whatsoever, and it always, and I literally mean always, seems to find a way to place itself in the most inconvenient and obstructed areas possible. Honestly, this camera just completely blocks your view half the time, making it fucking impossible to tell where the hell you are in relation to anything. It is guaranteed to make you fall off ledges, run directly into enemies, and just overall butt-fuck your entire fucking experience. It's completely and utterly broken. I just can't believe this game. I seriously cannot believe that this thing even exists. It's like some sort of inescapable nightmare or something. I mean, how the hell did this thing ever see the light of day? How could no one involved see that it doesn't fucking work? No part of it does. It's completely broken. Fair enough, I wasn't expecting much from a film-based game, but hell, even those are usually way, way, way better than this. There was just no effort of any kind put into any part of this mess. It's just a fucking insult. No, you know what? It goes beyond that. It's a complete and utter mockery of the entire Planet of the Apes franchise and its fan base. The visuals are fugly, the audio is a mess, the controls feel like they were made by a retarded baboon, the camera may as well not be there, the story is stupid and confusing, and the gameplay is barely fucking functional. This game is a fucking joke. Words simply can't describe the level of physical pain this pile of orangutan splooge has caused me. I genuinely hope all the people involved in this game's creation die in the most horrific and painful ways imaginable, because trust me, they more than deserve it. In fact, this game has put me in the mood to hunt down and capture as many apes as I possibly can, and thankfully, I know of a game that will allow me to do just that.